Heading into the Sunday ticket for round 2, I was sure that plenty of us were expecting back-to-back poo slingers, but it turned out a lot better than we thought. It was going to be the Dragons picking up their first win of 2023 against the Gold Coast Titans, spending another week in second place. The favourites for the wooden spoon showing some life to start the season. Ben Hunt looks as good as he did in 2022, but there was a more intriguing game, I guess you could call it, because the Tigers and the Knights delivered everything. Controversy after the match, run-ins, sin bins, and of course the send-off, which changed the game. But in the end, all it did really was, while big old Saifiti is going to be spending a long time on the sidelines, all it did for the West Tigers was just embarrass that club's loss even more. The Tigers are in deep trouble. But ladies and gentlemen, before we get any more into the video, you guys need to smash that like button. Drop a comment down below. Are the Tigers any chance of playing finals footy in 2023? And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're on the road to 5k. We're going to try and hit it by magic round, so get subscribed because we've got a big week on the Paddy G YouTube channel ahead. Now, I know, a lot of you are probably expecting me to talk about that send-off, but honestly, I don't think there's much to say. I think we can all agree it was most definitely a send-off. I mean, poor Jake Simpkin, he's likely not to be playing for at least the next little while. And Jacob Saifiti, he's a gun player, he's going to be surely missed for the Newcastle Knights. I could see the NRL making an example out of him and him spending 6 to 8 weeks on the sideline. So, when it comes to the actual send-off itself, I don't think there's much to discuss. I think the NRL got that one completely right for one of the few times in recent memory, but shout out to the NRL. I am pretty critical when they get it wrong, but when they get it right, I have to stand up for them. But let's be honest, that send-off, it's going to hurt the Newcastle Knights, but damn, did it look bad for the West Tigers. A sin bin, a send-off, 52% of possession. The Newcastle Knights lost Kalen Ponga, Jaden Brayley, and Tyson Frizzell, arguably their 3 best players in their team, and the West Tigers at home for the second week in a row against a side that many don't think will do too well this year, and they've gone and they've lost it. The West Tigers sit at the bottom of the ladder after 2 rounds, and this is a much worse start than I thought. I thought the Tigers were going to pick up at least 1 win from these first 2 games, but that might be one of, if not the most embarrassing loss I have seen this year. Absolutely horrible. The halves, Adam Doueihi, he looked dangerous in some aspects. Luke Brooks, there is no direction. Outside of Api Koroisau carving up through the middle at points, there is absolutely no direction with this team. Tim Sheens, he looks like an old man who doesn't know what he's doing, and that man knows more about rugby league than I will ever know. But I just don't think whatever it is that they're trying to do is working. That team has looked in shambles. They've probably been the most disappointing side for 2 weeks. We saw the Bulldogs on Saturday night. While it was a very, very depleted Melbourne Storm side, we saw how they turned their ship around. The West Tigers, despite losing in round 1, looked worse. Now, at least they had Api Koroisau try and play the most minutes. It still doesn't look like Api has had the full preseason, and Tim Sheens and Benji don't expect him to play 80 minutes just quite yet. But they're going to need him to play as many minutes as possible because he is already looking like Ben Hunt, as I predicted. Api Koroisau looking like Ben Hunt last year. He just looks by far the most dangerous player on that side. We got a glimpse of that as well with the Melbourne Storm side with Harry Grant, but at least they had Jerome Hughes. Without Api Koroisau, this West Tigers team, I don't know how they would be travelling. I don't know where they'd be getting their points from. They got a lucky ricochet which came off a Jackson Hastings tackle and a try that very arguably would have been disallowed nearly in any other game this round. The West Tigers, they look disgusting. They look like they're in shambles. They're a new side that'll hopefully come together, but man, Top 8 is a distant dream for them at this point. They're the only team after 2 rounds that I am putting a line through. That is in an era where they haven't made the final since 2011, since I was running around in year 4, for Christ's sakes. And that is the worst performance they have ever put in. Now they have a tough draw. They had the luxury of opening at Leichhardt 2 weeks in a row to start the season against 2 teams many have in their bottom 4, and they couldn't get the job done against either of them. It's a disgrace to Tigers fans. Tigers fans, I'm very sorry. They're one of the fan bases you feel bad for at this point, but for some reason, there's a part of me that just doesn't like the club and wants them to fall, because what we saw after the game was pretty unsportsmanlike in my opinion. Now, don't get me wrong, Tommy Talau has every right to feel upset. It was a bit of an accident. It was still a high tackle at the end of the day, and I agree that Hastings should have been put on report. I do stand by that it shouldn't have been a sin bin. I know a lot of people say that the severity of a penalty should come down to the length of time off the field, but I think that opens up a can of worms which you could talk about in a different video. But I agree with the decision. Tommy Talau coming up to Hastings after the game. Hastings literally said 10 seconds before in his interview with the mighty Jake Duke that he was going to apologise to him. Talau came up trying to act like the big dog, pushed him around, David Klemmer getting involved. It just really showed very unsportsmanlike conduct from the West Tigers, who, let's face it, were just embarrassed. I mean, the Newcastle Knights now, they're going to be without Brayley. They're going to be without Ponga. It looks really concerning for a team many of us had towards the bottom of the ladder with the West Tigers. And they're going to be without their 3 best players for some time, it looks like. Obviously, the Kalen Ponga situation is very scary. When that first happened, my initial instinct, well, that rules him out until at least Origin. Even as a Blues fan, I would hate to see that, but I just feel like he's going to need some time out of the game. That's his 6th concussion in the past 10 months. Obviously, he had the 3 in just 6 weeks to end last season. And I don't want us to see Kalen Ponga pushed out of the game due to the head knocks, because I think while obviously him getting knocked out is a concern, it was the weird way in which he did get knocked out. Not many players would get knocked out from that, and Kalen Ponga was put to sleep. So it's very concerning for Newcastle fans. I hope Kalen Ponga can get through it. It's probably a different topic for a different video, because the Newcastle Knights, I don't want to slam them and I don't want to talk negative too much. That was one of their bravest performances in recent times. I don't know whether they were playing for Adam O'Brien, whether they were playing for Jackson Hastings, or whether they were just playing for themselves. But that was one of the gutsiest performances I have seen in a long time. To be fair, the West Tigers definitely should have won that game no matter how gutsy the Newcastle Knights were, but heck, they showed that they're playing for Adam O'Brien and they want him to be the coach long term. So good signs for the Newcastle Knights. I think 15 other teams beat them on that day, but they somehow managed to get the job done. So shout out to Adam O'Brien, to Jackson Hastings. So good to see Hastings get their revenge. He had a few backhanded compliments in the game. It looks like it was a very sticky situation. It looks like the one where Tim Shane's made all the decisions to let Hastings go. So always good to see a situation where, look, I was disagreeing with the Tigers, and to see Hastings get their revenge. You know, I'm glad for Hastings, and it makes me look a little bit better as well, which is always nice. You always want to see yourself look good. But ladies and gentlemen, let me know in that comment section below, where do you think this ranks amongst the most embarrassing losses in NRL history? Make sure you smash that like button if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're on the road to 5K Magic Round. So yeah, do the big 3, and I'll see you in the next one.
And you will hear me every week when I